Wow, there's barely anybody here.
This is great.
Ladies and gentlemen, the left is here to absolutely hide what they're doing in our nation as it pertains to some pretty alarming numbers that we're now learning about SNAP, about Social Security benefits, about how many terrorists are in this nation. I think we're just scratching the surface on what the Biden administration has done and what horrors they have wrought on our nation. And there is a rot in our country. And these blue states are now hiding information from the Trump administration. The Trump administration is trying to find out how many criminal aliens have been given Social Security cards, how many criminal aliens are on welfare benefits. If you cut the benefits, you'll cut the illegal aliens. They'll go home. If they're not being, it's too expensive to live here. And if you cut the benefits, then they'd have to actually go perhaps pay taxes, buy their own food, support their own housing, and they just can't do that. They would self-deport by proxy. The first initial numbers from Doge was actually where you started to see some real scary results in some of the data processing for what is going on with criminal alien numbers. Here's Social Security numbers issued. See if you find a problem in some of this data.
When we saw these numbers, we were like, what is this? In 21, you see 270,000 people, goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Yeah, just this literally blew us away. We went there to find fraud, and we found this by accident. And this isn't political, by the way. My parents are immigrants. Yeah, this country's been great to us. My brother and sister all born in Spain. I'm pro-legal immigration. This is not political. This is not political. This is about America and the future of America. And there are a lot of good people in the system that pointed us in this direction. I want to honor them right now that work in the government today who took risks to show us these numbers and tell us what's going on. Yeah. So I want to stop for a minute. I want to honor those people today. Very good people. Very good people. I have been from D.C. to Social Security offices to the border to track this down, and very good people have helped us along the way. I want to thank them.
Yeah.
This number, what this is when you come in the country, if you're illegal, there's a couple ways to come in. You come in through a port of entry, and you can tell them you're afraid, and they'll give you an asylum case. You'll get an interview, then you get in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just go to the border. Literally, this happened. I talked to Border Patrol myself. Elon was there too. I went to Laredo, and I went to Bronzeville. Elon went to Eagle Pass. You walk up to a Border Patrol officer, and you tell them you want to come in. They have a couple of choices. They could charge you with a misdemeanor or a felony under 1325, or they can make it an administrative offense, like a parking ticket, basically. They were told to do that, make it an administrative offense under the last administration. And then you go walk across the border. They do what's called a release from your own recognizance, and they give you an NTA, notice to appear, which is to appear to judge. The wait times on judges are average 6 years. Look at Grok, you'll see it on immigration judges, benefit programs. And then what was really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why. Right. And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records. And we found people here registered.
Probably could find a better clip there, ALX. But nonetheless, the data is still readily available. Just this cursory dive into the data shows 1.3 million criminal aliens already on Medicaid, 5.5 million criminal aliens receiving benefits, an enormous number of them on voter records, registered to vote, and voting. They actually did vote. And of course, we have voluminous examples of criminal aliens voting in our elections. And then one of them, mysteriously running right back to China, a Communist Party member voting for Kamala Harris and then running back to China, was arrested, was charged by the DOJ, and then was able to sneak out of the country. Truly disturbing. The voter fraud is absolutely terrible. You've been deceived, robbed, extorted, and blackmailed. It cannot be overstated how much Democrats depend on criminal aliens, a fake population of America, a fraudulent and illegal and criminal population of America, to maintain power. And they do it in 3 ways. 1, congressional reapportionment. The way that the census is counted is you count the number of persons. You don't ask their immigration status. You count how many people live in each district. So it is incumbent on Democrats to pack as many criminal aliens into their districts as possible. But that's hard because they're human beings. And so you have to have magnets. You have to have incentives to bring them in. If you don't have the incentives to bring them in, then they'll go somewhere else. This is why here, more than 41,000 voters' registrations don't match driver's ID database. State data shows in Wisconsin. 41,000 in Wisconsin. Isn't Wisconsin a swing state? Didn't Trump win Wisconsin with less than 41,000 votes? This is insane. Did you hear what Kristi Noem said? 6,000 illegals on the terrorist watch list were given Social Security numbers. 6,000 terrorists are here getting welfare and Medicaid and EBT and SNAP and then voting. What'd Trump win by? How many votes? Tell me. What? I can't. Yeah. Okay. So that's less than 40,000. So there's 40,000 criminal alien voters, or at the very least voter registrations that don't match driver's license and ID database in Wisconsin. We lost a Senate seat in Wisconsin by like 10 votes. How many of them were illegals? The level of fraud that is being committed right now in our nation by Democrats based on criminal alien populations is the single most existential threat to our republic. You cannot have a representative democracy if the people that are voting in your democracy are not citizens of our nation. You cannot have social nets that are there for the protection of American citizens if they are being so wholly and roundly abused as to entice criminals to certain districts and certain localities in order to rig the electoral slate. And you cannot have free and fair elections if you have even a single illegal vote. A single illegal vote. So the Chinese, let's just take like the easy top line example, get me the Chinese kid. The Chinese kid that votes in Michigan for Kamala Harris canceled your vote. Are you watching from Michigan right now? Did you vote for Trump? Do you know that a dirty communist from China who fled, then was able to flee back to China when he was charged by the DOJ for illegal voting, was allowed to cast a vote for Kamala Harris? Here's the DOJ filing. That person canceled your vote. You work here, you live here, you pay your taxes, you work your fingers to the bone, your neck is snapping, your neck is breaking, you just want to be able to vote for Trump, you live in Michigan, you're in a swing state, things have gotten tougher and rougher, you have kids, you're bought into the system, you pay a mortgage, you file your W-2s with the IRS, you're just trying to grind out a life for your children. It's backbreaking, it's hard work, 2 weeks of vacation a year, and you vote for Trump because you're pissed. And some little Chinese kid who's a member of the Communist Party is able to vote and cancel your vote. His vote counted, the same as yours. Are you pissed off? He canceled your vote. Here's his photo, I think. He's a member of the Communist Chinese Party. He was able to flee the country on a secret visa before his court date. Should have been in jail for 10 years for voter fraud. His vote canceled your vote. This communist canceled your vote. Now take that out in mass, at scale, in blue states and red states. It happens in red states. It happens in every state. Pull up the heritage voter fraud map, please. Every single state in the union, in every single state in America, including every single blue state, currently has active voter fraud pending cases for every election. Many of these states, you can see Minnesota here. That's because of the Somali population. That's just a matter of fact. There's so much voter fraud that happens in Minneapolis. I would argue that Minnesota is probably a red state. At scale voter fraud in Illinois, North Carolina, another hotbed of it. Texas, huge illegal alien population in Texas because they want to flip Texas purple. It happens in every state in America. These are just the people you catch. How many criminal aliens voted in California? It's illegal to ask people their voter ID in California. It's illegal. You're not allowed to do it. How many criminal aliens voted? I can show you. You want to see it? You want to see it? Check this out. SNAP benefits sent to California. 2019, it was $5 billion, sorry, dollars. In 2020, it was $7 billion. I'm going to round up. So in 2019, it was $6 billion, 5977. In 2020, it was $8 billion, 7822. And in 2021, it skyrocketed to $11.2 billion. Oh, okay. So it doubled. It doubled in 3 years. It doubles. What is that? That's California bringing in millions of new residents. The data makes no sense. The data makes 0 sense. This is California bringing in millions of new residents. What is that exactly? Democrats call them newcomers. What is that? These are criminal aliens that are brought magnetically to California because they can vote. They can apply for these benefits without anybody questioning them. And they have full protection of the state. An obscenity. Fiscal year 21 numbers on newly established SNAP recipients claim make California look like it's living in an alternative universe. Look at this. 250,000 new SNAP recipient claims in California alone. That's in 1 year. And no fraud claims. California is lavishing criminal aliens with goodies. But if you look again, if you don't give them good, if you can't survive. You can't come here from Somalia and survive. If you don't speak the language, you have no work permit, you have no infrastructure, there are no family units supporting you, you have nothing, you can't make it here. You need to have government subsistence. You must have it. Go back, Klein. Go to the explosion of SNAP benefits under the Biden administration. There you go. Thank you. And you know what? If you chart the actual spending on SNAP, you'll find that it goes hand in glove with what? The open border. You'll find that it goes hand in glove, swipe over, please, Klein, with this. A one-to-one tracking. Democrats are paying criminal aliens to move to their state, using your tax dollars to do it, and using a fraudulent system through the states to funnel payments to illegals to stay there so that they can get extra numbers in the census and also get illegal votes. There are 21 states that are refusing to send their SNAP data to the USDA. The USDA is asking, Like, you need to send us all of your information. Who's receiving federal benefits? Now, my question is very simple. Why would the federal government give any of these benefits to any of these states? And of course, you'll see here, they're all blue states. There's not a single red state among them. California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota. Michigan is a red state, but it's run by Democrats. Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, also a red state, but run by Democrats. Vermont, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., of course. Why wouldn't Washington, D.C. be sending that? I mean, that's like a federal city. Trump's technically in charge of Washington, D.C. Well, Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture, was on explaining why this is happening, saying that they have created fraudulent incentives using federal tax dollars in order to keep criminal aliens in their state, to use magnets to bring criminal aliens to their state. Go.
Day one of USDA, February 13th, is we sent letters to every governor in America being very clear that no illegal aliens can use SNAP. 0, 0, 0. We asked every state for the first time in history, and this was in February, to send us their data and let us, with Doge and a war room, actually start going through this data to better understand how this explosion of SNAP benefits happened under Joe Biden. We increased almost 40% on this program in just a couple of years under the Biden administration. Of course, we know they were trying to buy the election, but that's a conversation for another time. And since we have asked for that data, 29 states have complied. Of course, almost all the red states, a couple of couple blue states too. But in that data, and I haven't talked about this yet publicly, in that data we've studied about $100 billion in spend. We have found thousands and thousands of illegal use of the EBT card. We have been moving people off of SNAP. We've got almost 700,000 people, I think, we've moved off just since the president took office. We've arrested about 118 people. So this has been ongoing. But Rachel, to your point, what this conversation has allowed is a national spotlight on a broken and corrupt program. We found one guy in 6 different states getting a benefit. We found about 5,000 people that are dead who are still getting benefits. Like, it is time to drastically reform this program so that we can make sure that those who are truly needy, truly vulnerable, are getting what they need, and the rest of the corruption goes away and we can serve the American taxpayer.
Stephen Miller. Democrats are currently suing the administration with the full support of Democratic judges to demand no citizenship checks on food stamps, no citizen checks on Medicaid, no citizen checks on voting. Do you understand they've created a fake country? This isn't the country that you look at today, the blue states that you look at today. The map right here. That's not actually your country. It is so much redder than that. You are so much more in the majority. Democrats have cheated and rigged the system with goodies paid for by you, with a gun to your head, proverbially, from the IRS. Pay your taxes or else you go to prison. And we pay our taxes so that Democrats can take that tax money, lie to the federal government, break the law, hand that money over to a Guatemalan, a Haitian, a Nicaraguan, an Afghani, I don't know. I don't care. Somebody who doesn't belong here, somebody who's not an American. These benefits are not intended for anyone other than an American. EBT, SNAP, welfare, housing, Section 8, Obamacare, Medicare, Medicaid, a full suite of social safety nets. Being abused for what reason? That criminal alien, that family, makes another family in their congressional district. Nobody wants to live in these hellscape districts. Nobody wants to live there. They all leave. That means that when the census comes around, those states lose power. Get me the census map, please, from the AP. Those states lose power if they don't have enough people in them. Now, Democrats are already looking at a historic loss of electoral college votes, something that will put the presidency, I think, out of reach for a very long time. California and New York are set to lose 3 or 4 seats each. States like Texas and Florida are set to gain seats, 3 or 4 each. And they're looking at a tough map. You're going to have a you're going to have a lot of really bad election nights for Democrats. They have to try and get through 2028. They have to desperately try and rig things in 2028. That's their only hope. Because after that, it's doomsday. That's what the projections show, and those projections might even be low. I want the Electoral College map, please, from the AP. Thank you. It's an extra benefit. No, I want the ones that have projections for 2030 after the census, please. It's a extra benefit if those criminal aliens are also voting in elections. If they have fake Social Security numbers or real Social Security numbers that they all share, and then they are able to vote for Democrats, are able to vote themselves goodies out of our treasury as they're here illegally. Democrats have to maintain as much of the system as possible because doom awaits them. This is what doom looks like for Democrats. This is not going to be pretty after the next census. Counts what has happened in blue states. There is a crisis brewing. And after Americans start realizing what's been happening to their benefits, why the nation is actually bankrupt. The nation is bankrupt because of this. Listen to this.
Look at that motherfucker.
Look at these.
Look at that motherfucker.
Look at these grocery carts. Filled and packed to the brim with some of the most. They're like they're laughing and bragging in your face. They're rubbing it in your face. Some of the most, I mean, jokes on them because these are some of the most toxic and poisonous food products out there. How these are available on SNAP, I don't know. But your average Americans are starting to see this and say, well, hold up. I worked for 36 straight years paying into the system, and I get $800 a month. Do you think these carts are $800? No, these are thousands and thousands of dollars of groceries. You never see anybody who's paying for their groceries walking out with carts like this. Never. You never see that. And Americans are starting to take note.
In front of the Social Security office trying to figure out why I only get $876 a month on Social Security after working 36 years and 10 years off and on, but 36 years straight and raising 5 kids, and now I get $876 a month. What is that? To be continued.
What is that exactly? Let me explain. Democrats have been using these systems to pay off their voters and to F over and screw over people like that lady. People who actually pay into the system. People at work. This has been a massive handout for votes in order to keep people like this happy for
it's like
generations.
Too, you know what I'm saying? I get my shit on the first. You know what I mean? I'm first of the month around this bitch. But it's the second, and I just went to go peek, and I'm like, you know, maybe they would have gave a little sprinkle. My bad. Them gave shit. I done took my ass to this HEB that they just built over here in Rockwall or whatever by my house. First of all, that bitch is packed as hell. Beautiful store, real nice shit in there, you know, deals out the ass. But I couldn't indulge because I ain't got no yamps. I just spent cash money on 5 items out.
So let me translate here, please, because translation is necessary. This individual is explaining that she has to pay for her own beauty supplies with her own money. and is upset about it and is griping because the government didn't put money in her card. As she sits in what looks like a new car with with expensive hair products and braids, nice looking clothes, and clearly hasn't missed a meal in a very long time. She had to use $20 of her own money to actually buy a beauty product. I still got mother effing bills to pay, she says. I'm not trying to spend that on food. I'm supposed to be getting food stamps. Well, Benny, you know, they're like people with children on food stamps, okay? You should chill out, all right? You know that only 28% of SNAP households earned any income at all? So 72% of SNAP households decided they just refuse to work. They're not going to work. Only 34% of SNAP households had children. So again, you have 70% of SNAP households that have no kids. They're just here to freeload, to provide nothing, do nothing, sit around, smoke weed, play video games, and sit in their cars and make TikToks, complain about how they have to spend their own money for the first time in their lives. These are not people struggling to feed their families. It's a voter bank. It's a voter bank for Democrats. People are sending videos of totally empty Walmarts and totally packed, totally stocked shelves. This is making another massive point that these programs are actually just massive government handouts to big food, big retail, to make some of the most ultra-processed and unhealthy foods imaginable and get them to fly off the shelves into packed shopping carts for people like this. Here's a special clip out of New Mexico. New Mexico, a state that refuses to give the federal government their SNAP data, a woman complains that she's been on food stamps for 30 years. Here we go.
The first thing I did was grab my phone and call, and when I heard $0, my chest went into my throat.
Maggie Aragon has been a SNAP recipient for more than 3 decades. Even with these benefits, she says she also relies on food banks to get enough food.
I have depended on those benefits since the 1990s, and it's detrimental to my life if I don't get them.
There are more than 460,000 New Mexicans using SNAP benefits. Tonight, some of them telling us they don't have those right now. Friday, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham announced $30 million in state funds would be used to supply SNAP users starting November 1st.
We're going to choose feeding families over politics in New Mexico. We're going to do that right now.
That woman is able-bodied enough to stand and do an interview, go to the store, complain, but she's not able-bodied enough to go get a job when you have like a massive workforce shortage in America. We don't have a workforce shortage in America. We have a willingness to work shortage in America because we create programs that incentivize fatherlessness, broken homes, lazy bastards that want to pay nothing into the system and get their entire lives, their houses, their full grocery carts paid for. And we allow it. There's such a thing as a worker shortage in America. It's not biblical. It's the opposite of biblical. Proverbs say that if you don't work, you don't eat. If this keeps going on, they're going to riot. And what I find is particularly fascinating about this is that rioting is a very, to riot, you have to be very able-bodied. To go flip tables and to go raid shelves and stuff, you have to be really, you have to have some physical capacity, man. You really do. You got a good physical shape, right, to riot. It's pretty exhausting. Haven't tried it myself, but I've seen the videos. You know, you can tell. If you're able-bodied enough to steal and to riot, aren't you able-bodied enough to go work? Where the hell are the work requirements here? Again, the entire program needs to be halted. The federal government needs to change standards, and everyone needs to be forced to reapply here. This is a societal question, and it's also a moral question. You shouldn't make a country where people don't have to work and they can have their entire lives paid for by those who do. I am sick of spending half of my wages on people that refuse to work. Not that they can't work, refuse to work, and then rub it in my face. Strangely, there's a man named John Fetterman in the United States Senate who's allegedly a Democrat from Pennsylvania saying exactly this, and then saying that Democrats are the actual problem here in this government shutdown. Here we go.
Deeply distressing to know that 42 million Americans are going to lose their SNAP benefits. And now that's one of the big reasons why I refuse to shutting our government down. And again, I feel like the Democrats really need to own the shutdown.
Democrats own the shutdown, huh? 59% of households headed by illegal immigrants receive welfare. 59%. Wild, ladies and gentlemen. What is that? How can we continue? You can't. You can't.